Well, Jack, anyway, first of all, congratulations on getting the Sports Star Award for September, richly deserved. You were a man that has got a lot of awards, but I suppose to get one locally is something special too, is it?
It's nice, sure. It's always nice to be appreciated, but I suppose the award isn't really for me as such. It's for the whole group, the players and the management, because we certainly, above any group I was ever involved with, we certainly worked well together and worked as a unit. And I have to say, I got a great kick out of this year, because I suppose we weren't expected to win it at the start of the year, and the team just grew and moulded together as the year went on, so it was very satisfactory.
I remember speaking to you at the awards night at the end of last year, and we were talking about 2014, about you winning the minor that year, and we were talking about this year now. And I remember you distinctly saying to me like that you wouldn't have the stars that you probably had in under 14, but you reckoned that you had a good group. Talk to me about the work that this group put in, and the importance and the difference of both teams and both years.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think last year's team probably had what you'd call more high-profile individual stars as such. But I, in many ways, I think this year's team, the way they came together, were probably more of a complete team. Now that's a bit of a paradox, really, but because last year we won it as well. But I think this year we had to work really hard as a management to gel the group together, because we felt at the start of the year that we were going to be facing Cork in the knockout game, so we had to get going very early in the year. Work fierce hard with the players, and I have to say they really bought into it. And we felt that maybe we had to put a bit more emphasis on defence, because we had an outstanding goalie last year, and Shane Ryan, remember, and right throughout the year, on many occasions, Shane bailed us out. Even the All-Ireland final, he made 2 or 3 outstanding saves, and right throughout the year. So we felt that we didn't want to leave our goalkeeper as exposed as we did last year. So we worked very, very hard on defence. And I think we started off by trying to get that right, and as we got more confident, then we expressed ourselves a bit more, and by the time we reached the All-Ireland final, the forwards were firing all cylinders as well, and that was great. And I think bringing in Declan O'Sullivan halfway through the year there was a great move, because he was a great forward himself, and I think the young lads looked up to him and respected him, and he certainly got the forwards motoring really well.
Staying with Declan O'Sullivan now, Jack, it was a great move to bring him in, and it's only right and proper maybe that people like Declan O'Sullivan and Kerry players, maybe in the past, that they haven't been introduced to things like this, to what you've done. There should be an opening there, you'd imagine, in various teams and various places for blooding young managers, I'd put it like that.
Yeah, well, I think myself, it's every bit as important to blood the managers of the futures and the coaches of the futures as it is to blood the players, because I mean, he had finished up playing with Kerry, and it's a big wrench as well, Weeshie, when you pull out from the Kerry scene. I know it myself, when I missed it when I was away from it in after leaving in 2006, and you need to fill that void somewhere, and I just out of the blue one day, I said, sure, I've nothing to lose by bringing him in for a couple of sessions, and as it turned out, he was such a revelation that he was a big part of our success for the rest of the year.
And you've brought him with you now to the under-21s. It must be very evident that he's enjoying what he's doing and he's learning what he's doing. And it looks like that he might be a manager in the coming years.
Well, look, you can never say that, Weeshie, but all I know is that you have to. I think it's a good idea to get experience. I mean, I'm around a long time myself. I've seen it all, and it's great for him to come in a bit under the radar and get a bit of experience without being plunged in at the deep end. I think it's a mistake for people to be thrown in at the deep end, because when you're thrown in at that level, you have to be ready for it, and you have to have learned from mistakes of the past. And like Eamon Fitz and Dermot Murphy came in with me for a couple of years there in 2009, and they got a lot of experience in there as well for a couple of years. So I think that's very important, and I think it's something that probably should be done on a more organised basis rather than just an ad hoc basis,
What would he have brought to the forwards now, Jack? Explain to us, what exactly would he say? What exactly would he do that would improve young fellas? What was the difference between Declan O'Sullivan coming in?
Well, you see, it's all about belief and that, because, he was a great forward himself, and the young lads would have looked up to him. And sure, other fellas might have been saying the same thing, but when he says it, that they kind of tend to believe it more. It's the old adage. It's like Kenny Dalglish taking over Liverpool from being a great player.
What would he zero in?
Just to finish that point, it's a great start. If you're a great player, it certainly is a great start when you go coaching, because players will buy into you, and they'll basically believe what you're saying, what you're telling them. And plus, as well as that, he'd understand the type of movement that you need among the forwards, and the way forwards need to develop chemistry and understanding among each other, because he played on every line. He played in the inside line and the outside line, and he was a kind of a central player, a playmaker. So he'd understand the way a forward line should be playing for each other. And like, I don't know, whether you like it or not, like, you would have to say that especially in the All-Ireland final, that forward line really clicked. Like, now, I'm not saying it was all down to Declan. Of course, we were all stuck in it, and all the management really put their shoulder to the wheel this year, and worked very well as a group. And consequently, we've stayed together and trying to develop these players further into the under 21 level.
Was the turning point, or was it the first time you realised you had an All-Ireland winning team when you beat Cork that night in Tralee?
Well, we would have known that Cork had a right good team this year. I mean, just going by their forward line alone, they gave us a bellyful down in Parky Cleave last year. They scored 2-12. I think we beat them by 4 points, 2-16, 2-12. And they would have at least 3, if not 4 of those forwards. They had young Kingston on the 40, Kieran Kingston's son. They had Gary Murphy from Castletown Bear, who's a really exciting young forward. And they had Dan Denny and Lowney, and they had a right good forward line. And we felt that if we got over those fellas, that we had a right shot at going the whole distance, because there wasn't. I mean, Cork weren't too far behind us last year, and we felt that this year they were better again. So we thought if we got over them, we would have a right chance,
A lot of people have remarked to me, Jack, and I've noticed it myself, and I've remarked to people that your 2 minor teams that won, they were an exemplary bunch of young men, not alone on the field, but also off the field. They seemed to behave themselves impeccably on the returns, and there was no stories going out about them drinking and all that. That's what has happened in the past. Would you be very conscious of that they're representing their county like what I'm talking about?
Very much so, Weeshie. I have to say, we put a lot of emphasis on that. Eamon Whelan and myself and Christy Killeen would have mentioned that to them many times, that they were Kerry ambassadors on and off the field. And I mentioned it to them in the dressing room after the game. I said, lads, we've done the business. We've brought home the canister now. So, for the next 2 days, the spotlight will be on you guys. So, just don't let the side down, and you're not trying to make monks out of them, but you don't want them getting into any bother either, or causing any trouble. So I have to say they were exemplary. And a huge part of that, I think, goes down to our liaison officer, Christy Killeen, a real gentleman, a former school teacher himself, and a guy that everybody in the group looked up to, including myself. He was a mighty man, and he would have spoken. He really went about doing it the right way. He would have spoken to the players' parents as well, and told them about what was expected of the young lads for the weekend. And I think that was probably the first time that was done, and it was really appreciated by everyone. So a huge gratitude has to go to Christy for the way he set about, moulding that group off the field.
Yeah. You, of course, you've handed over now, and Peter Keane is coming in to take over next year now, Jack, and he'll be going from my own club, the Legion. You'll be very familiar with the group of young fellas that are around the county now and what's going on. What will they be like next year? Is there a chance for 3 in a row, do you think?
I think there is. We were shooting the breeze coming down the train on the Monday after the All-Ireland, and we were trying to have a cut at picking next year's team. And believe it or not, now, I think, in many ways, maybe it's more clear-cut than this year's group, because remember, there's at least 6 of the team that are underage again. Wow. Billy Courtney, the goalie, is underage. The 2 halfbacks, Mike Breen and Daniel O'Brien, are underage, and 3 of the forwards, Brian Sweeney, Sean Ishii and Colin McLennan, whom we lost during the year of the cruise ship, but the way he's set about it, he'll be back plenty time for next year. So that's a great start with 6. And then you have a lot of fellas who were in the panel then, the likes of Graham O'Sullivan and all those fellas, and likes of David Shaw there from the Crokes was very unlucky not to get into the match day squad there for the All-Ireland, a very promising player, and a lot of other good young lads around the place. Niall Collins there from the Stole, fellas like that. There's a young fella there from the Crokes as well, the cornerback. So I think there's a right good squad there next year, and sure, look, they're there with a good chance, Weeshie,
Were you tempted to stay on for a third year?
Of course I was, yeah, because in many ways tis a great kind of set up to be involved in, because I suppose we had developed a good system, and we'd got a good relationship with the schools, and of course would have been nice to stay there. But I found the start of last year difficult in the sense that after winning All-Ireland the year before, I was then starting at the bottom of the mountain again and trying to climb that mountain, with a new group, more or less a new group anyway, because with the exception of Mark O'Connor and Andrew Barry, we were starting from scratch. So I found that mentally difficult at the start of the year for 2 or 3 months. I couldn't see myself making much progress, and bit by bit, then they started to click. But I said to myself then, halfway through the year, I couldn't put myself through that again, because it can be difficult. I found it difficult in the sense that usually with say a senior team that I'd been involved with for years, whatever work you do this year in trying to develop the team, that'll stand to you next year. But then when you're going back to a new group every year, it can be a bit more difficult. So that's the reason I'm going with the 21s, because we've put 2 years work into these, so trying to get them to play the way we want them to play. And, I'm not saying we'll be successful at under 21 level, but it should be a little bit easier to get our message across, the fact that they've been listening to it now for that amount of time,
What will you see the difference now between the under-21s and the minors in relation? Of course, there's a different competition, and it is run over a shorter period of time, and it is more compressed, and it's played under lights.
And it's played at a time of the year, Weeshie, when there's a lot of stuff going on. There's still club football going on, a rake of club football going on. There's colleges football. There's all kinds of everything. They have exams, they have study. So I think the big thing is our contact time with these fellas is going to be limited. So whatever message we're trying to get across, we better be good at getting it across fairly quickly, because we won't have half as much time as we had with the minors, because we kind of, had them for 6-7 months. I mean, this competition really, you're supposed to start the 1st of January, and it's over. It's the first game is in March, and it could be over then for you. So we won't have as much contact time with them, but the fact that we've had them for a couple of years should be a help, in the sense that they have a fair idea how we want to play, and it's just a matter of trying to mould them in those 2 groups now with the minor team from 3 years ago.
I'd always imagine you're a very meticulous kind of a fella. You've been a teacher and everything, of course. Would you be sitting down at home now winter nights, and you'd have your books and copybooks and stuff out? Would you have a list of players and dates of births and where they're from? And would you know where you're going now, Jack, for the under-21s?
We have a fair idea, Weeshie. I mean, we've gone through 2 years with the minors. Yeah. There wasn't a player in the county that we didn't check out, over those 2 years. Now, I wouldn't be as familiar with the group from 3 years ago, the Conor Keane's group. But, we still have a fair idea who were the standout players in that minor team. So it's a matter now trying to blend them and get the balance right, and above all, get a system going, a system that'll allow those players to express themselves. Yeah.
Looking forward to done 21s now. It's a nice challenge. It's different, isn't it? Fresh for you.
Well, it is, yeah, it is. And I was involved with under-21s for a long time. I started with under-21s, believe it or not, as far back as 93. That's a long time ago, isn't it? How many years ago is that?
It's a good while.
22 years ago, is it?
Yeah.
22 years ago, I started the first day I ever got involved with under-21s was with Paddy Shabe. We played a challenge game back in Gallerus, against a challenge game against St. Kieran's in a winter's day in 1993. That was my first involvement with it. And as it turned out, we were short a player or two. I finished up tagging out myself. Yeah. So I got my debut with the under-21s at the age of 33, Weeshie. So that was as close as I got to it. But yeah, I was with them a long time. Yeah, from more or less on and off from 93 all the way up to 2002, I think. Yeah. And we had great success in the 90s. You know, we won 5 Munsters in a row from 95 to 99 and won 3 All-Irelands, and a bit unlucky now that to win maybe another one.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think that under 21 grade is, obviously the minor grade is important, but the under 21 grade is possibly more important, because I remember that time that under 21 those under 21 teams backbone Kerry for a long time after Weeshie. You know, a lot of great players came through those teams, like the Darashays and the Kinnedas and the Donald Dollies and the Hassids and the Tom Sullivans, Mike McCarthy's, Ed McGallagher, all them fellas, Noel Kennelly. They all came through those under 21 teams, like, and they were hugely instrumental then in the 97 win and the 2000 win. And you know, they were soldiering on into the middle of the 2000s, you know.
Finishing up, Jack, finally, you're viewing the scene of defeat by Dublin. What are your thoughts on it now?
My initial thought on the day was we were fierce disappointed, because we had such a great, night last year when the 2 cups were back in the hotel. So it put a bit of a damper on that Weeshie, because even the minors couldn't, I suppose, celebrate too hard, because of the fact that over on the other side of the room the seniors were feeling the pain. So it was an unusual atmosphere at the banquet, I have to say. That was, we're all human. That was my initial feeling, that it just took a bit of the spark out of the celebrations. But as regards the game itself, I just felt sometimes Weeshie, like some old English politician said one time, circumstances, dear boy, circumstances kind of dictated that Dublin were more primed for that game than Kerry. See, 4 weeks in the month of September is a long time to be twiddling your thumbs, especially when you spend 2 of those not knowing who you're playing. So I felt myself, it was no more than the replay last year helped Kerry win the All-Ireland. I think the replay this year definitely helped Dublin. Dublin wouldn't have been half as primed if they had got over the line the first day against Mayo, So just goes to show you can't beat games, because especially games that are that tight and competitive, everybody's on the line. Management are tested, players are tested, subs are tested, fellas nervous tested. How can you simulate that below in Killarney in training, Yeah. So I think it was the circumstances more than anything that beat Kerry. Plus, on the day, I still maintain Kerry played their best football with a dry side, because Kerry are a kicking team, at all levels, and maybe Dublin were a bit stronger, in contact, and then when you have to carry the ball and fellas are hitting you, maybe Dublin were slightly more physical in contact. So I think the rain certainly wasn't what Kerry were looking for, and you would have to say on the day Dublin were worth it,
Finally, Jack, have you read Tomás O'Shea's book? Are you reading it?
I was in London how the weekend we see at the Kerryman's function, and I just read bits and pieces in the extracts, I suppose, in the paper.
What do you think of it? He gives you high praise.
He does.
Yeah,
he does, to be fair. But I praised him too.
Well, you did. But he says out of all the coaches or all the managers he had, the 4 he had, he said you were the best of them. He says other things are right, like about it when you wrote in the book that maybe it shouldn't have been written. But he was high in his praise of you, Jack.
Yeah, Tomás is a great fella. Look, the one thing I always said about him is what you see with Tomás is what you get. He was he was a great warrior. I'm not saying everything was hunky-dory between us all the time, but sure, when is it ever between a player and a manager? But like, if you were picking a player to go to battle, like, you'd have him at the top of the pile, and he was a great player over many years. I had him in under 21 level as well, so I knew him before he went into the seniors. But sure, he'll go down as one of the all-time great players, and sure, if you thought maybe I was a bit offside once or twice, sure, the man is entitled to his opinion, I suppose.
Listen, Jack, anyway, congratulations again on getting the award, and hopefully you'll be sitting down again next year, and the best of luck with the under-21s, because while the county were longing for a minor victory, they're also longing for an under-21 victory, so I no doubt that if some team will beat you, it'll be better than you. Well done.
Good man. Thanks, Weeshie. Thank you. Thanks, lads.